You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 183. 3 reasons it's important to prioritize getting over your ex. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, Breakup Coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, my beautiful, beautiful Bravehearts. How is everyone doing? I hope you're having an amazing start to your week if you are listening to this on a Monday. I had the 5-day training last week because we opened enrollment for the Get Over Your Ex program, and we use that to celebrate enrollment opening. And I was doing this thing that was very, very helpful throughout the week where every day I was teaching a topic. I really asked myself, why is this topic even important? Why is it important for them to understand this, to see this, to know this, and really just checking in with the content to make sure that I was teaching like the most important work that I have to share. And the first day we talk about why you're not over your ex. And it got me thinking, why is it even important to get over an ex? Is it important? Why is it important? To me, it was extremely important when I was going through my breakup, right? And I thought about, why is it important for all of us, anyone who's struggling with heartbreak, anyone who was me in 2016, why is it so important that they get over their ex? And even for humans that didn't have the same experience of me, of being left, but someone maybe who did do the leaving and is struggling to get over their ex, because that happens too. Or maybe for the human who is in the on-again, off-again relationship, or that middle ground, really hoping and praying and wishing that person chooses them, why is it important for that individual to get over their ex? So I started looking at that and exploring it and journaling about it and really thinking it through. And it was really eye-opening to me. I thought it was very fascinating and interesting to think about. And one thing that I noticed is that breakups and divorces are very relatable to death. It was more difficult, at least for myself, to grieve someone who was still alive than it was for me to grieve someone who actually passed over. There's like a component of feeling like you have control because that person's still alive, versus when someone actually passes away, I'm like, all control's out the window. There's nothing that I can do. And I know that's not everyone's experience, so I'm just saying that from my own personal experience. It was more difficult for me to grieve someone who was still alive. And what's fascinating about how breakups and divorces can be so relatable to death is that I don't think there are many organizations, if any, like companies that acknowledge breakups and divorce, and have like a leave. You know how sometimes some companies have a grievance leave where you're allowed to take off work because you're experiencing a passing. And maybe this is happening more so in other countries outside of the United States, because I know when I was doing a bunch of work for my pregnancy and I was looking at maternity leaves and how I wanted to do that, Europe has such great maternity leave in comparison to the United States. And so maybe this is a thing in other countries where you guys have breakup and divorce leave, and that's amazing. But in terms of the United States, it's not a widely spread idea yet, and maybe we're picking this up over time, and that's going to be great. But when I was going through it in 2016, I didn't get any days off to grieve my breakup. That felt like a death. And I wasn't supposed to talk about it even. Like at work, it was weird even, and I was a very open person. it was weird that I brought it up to my boss and that it was even a conversation in the room. And we're really supposed to kind of keep it dulled down, and we shouldn't say anything bad and all of these things, when in reality, it's all we want to do is talk about it. We're completely paralyzed in it. At least for myself, I wanted to talk about it. And I was in a building where I wasn't allowed to talk about it for 8 hours a day. And it's just very interesting. And then another thing that I was thinking about when it comes to breakups and divorce from like a societal perspective is a lot of times we think that something bad has to happen for a breakup or a divorce to be warranted, instead of just simply accepting that maybe two people came to the conclusion or a realization that they don't want to be in a relationship anymore, or that there isn't a want match and that they grew apart. And of course, both of those people probably didn't come to the conclusion at the same time, or one of them didn't want to accept that conclusion. And that's why I have a job doing what I do. But it doesn't have to be this terrible thing of someone cheated or they did something bad. And it's really hard for our brains to like wrap ourselves around that idea that maybe this just isn't the person for me, and I've just been in a relationship with them so long that I think they're supposed to be this person. And I even think about one of my favorite clients recently who went through a divorce of a 24, 25 year long marriage. And from the outside in, I personally can see how that is just so not her person. Her person likes a lot of the same things that she wants. They have similar interests, but she had been in this marriage for so long, and they had kids, and they did this life together. They had 25 years of their life together, and that's amazing and beautiful. But now that he wants to go out and have a different life, of course, it's difficult for her to accept, or it was difficult for her to accept. And now she's accepted it, and she's even, seeing someone else and loving it and finally realizing it and seeing it. But nothing terribly bad has to happen for a breakup or a divorce to be warranted. And it's different to think about it that way. And I just find it fascinating. When I was thinking about all of that, I was also thinking about, how do we grieve a death? We are given leave. Therapy is seen as normal, right? A ceremony takes place. People surround you with love and bring you food and support. None of this naturally happens with a divorce or a breakup. It's more of, this is hush hush, don't tell people, we shouldn't talk about this. God forbid a ceremony takes place where they celebrate their love for one another and complete it, right? It's more of, lawyers get involved, teams are made, sides are figured out by friends and family. There is so much less love in that experience. And it was mind-blowing for me to see, and I'm seeing it from multiple perspectives. Obviously, I do this work all day, every day, 5 days a week, but I was also seeing it in my surroundings, my own personal surroundings. I have loved ones who are going through divorce right now. I'm just seeing it from another perspective that is really like opening up my brain to how much work the Braveheart movement really has. And when I kind of wrote out the process of what happens when someone dies versus what happens when someone decides to go through a divorce. And those processes looked so stunningly different, but the emotional experience is so similar. So similar. And the beauty I was very excited to see was that inside of the Get Over Your Ex program, I structure it very intentionally. And I was excited to see that a lot of the pieces that take place when someone dies does just naturally happen in the program. And we work through that and we move through that. And you have community and you have love and you have support and you do have a ceremony. And you do get to validate your words and feel seen and heard and held. And you might not be getting that from the outside world. You might get it in pieces, right? From your close friends and your close family. But from a very a bigger, broader movement, it's just different. And I want us to change the world in this way. I'm only bringing this up in my podcast because it's where I know people listen. And I am only bringing this up because I want all of us to take a mental note of this for the next time you have a friend or a family member who is going through the depths of despair. Not only for yourself, obviously, because you're probably listening to this because you yourself have experienced heartbreak in this way, but I want you to remember that what would it look like to grieve this as if it was a death? Celebrate it with a ceremony, taking leave, giving yourself therapy, coaching, having people around you to love and support you, and doing that also for other people when you notice they're going through a divorce or a breakup. And this all comes down to my main solution is really just to prioritize this. Prioritize getting over your ex. Prioritize your divorce. Prioritize your divorce as if you were to prioritize a death. You would prioritize someone dying. I was talking to my brother. This is such a weird example, but it popped in my head just now. My brother and I are really busy people, or at least we kind of see ourselves as busy people. And every time I'm like, Wilson, I really want to see you. I want to see you so bad. And I was thinking about it today. I was like, if I died, Wilson would make time to come see me. And then I'm also thinking yeah, and if he died, I would make time to go to his funeral. So why don't I make time and prioritize him and go see him now while he's alive? It just was one of those things where I'm really looking at what am I prioritizing in my life and why is it important to prioritize breaking a breakup or a divorce or getting over your ex? It's really creating a sacredness around it. Hold a funeral for your ex. Have a ceremony. Have a ceremony to acknowledge and see the potential that you saw in that person. Treat it as if it was a death. When you see your family member or a friend go through a breakup or divorce, how would you support them if that person just passed away? And can you support them in that same way? And how can you help them realize and notice that they should treat it like that as well? And I want to give you 3 reasons I personally found that was just glaringly obvious and just huge pieces as to why it's important to prioritize getting over your ex outside of the big reason in my brain of learning how to do heartbreak differently and teaching the world how to do heartbreak different. That is my number one reason. That is my number one reason why I have the Get Over Your Ex podcast, why this is the work that I do in the world. For me, we've got to change this at a much larger level, and I will do it one person at a time. Okay? But here is 3 reasons you should prioritize healing heartbreak and getting over your ex. And not just you, all of us, myself included. But here's 3. Are we ready? Number 1, waking up into a nightmare is no way to live. For me, sleeping was the only calm I got during my breakup. My ex was still in my dreams for the most part. And then in the morning, when my alarm would go off, I was jolted out of this calmness into the stark reality that I was laying in my bed with my best friend Danica in her apartment with just my suitcase. The people that I loved, my dog and my ex, were in a completely different state than me. And here I was in Wisconsin about to make an 1.5-hour commute to a job I didn't want to go to. I was living a nightmare, and I woke up to a nightmare every morning. And that, my friends, is the worst feeling you ever experience in life. And I wish that on no one. Getting over your ex, if that is your experience right now, getting over your ex needs to be your top priority. Your life is worth so much more than that. You are worthy of everything you've ever desired. And loving your life is a part of that. And of course, finding a new job if it's not what you want, finding a new place where you want to live, and all of these things, they are all a part of getting over your ex. All of those things are priorities when you prioritize getting over your ex, because living a bigger and better life than the one that you had with your ex is a part of getting over your ex. So of course those things become priorities within that, but here's what I want to show you. When we're going through breakup, we've experienced a lot of loss. It's really hard to not be in a lack mentality. So when you go after finding a new place to live, finding a new job, and you're going through heartbreak with the lack mentality, the part about that is it makes it really difficult. You're like, nothing's going to be as great as what I had with my ex. This isn't what I want. You only see what you don't want instead of finding what you do truly want that lights you up naturally and organically. And so if you can be getting over your ex and going at this from a place of like excitement of your future and freedom to choose and do what it is that you finally want to do, those things become fun. And you actually wake up excited to go find that place. And that is what I'm talking about. Loving your life from that place, building the bigger and better from that place. That's why getting over your ex should be a priority. The second one is all about emotional maturity. Being emotionally dependent on one human being is also the worst in the world. That sucks so bad, right? I've been there. I hate that. Feeling like your entire emotional state is dependent on what your ex does or doesn't do. Just a bummer, right? We're waiting for someone else's message. They text us something, like one little thing, and all of a sudden we're lit the fuck up, even though it's just a breadcrumb. That is also no way to live. Not fun. Learning to become emotionally mature and emotionally abundant in terms of I get to feel the way that I want to feel on my dime, not someone else's, is just the most magical experience you will ever have. And everyone deserves that. Number 3, feeling as if your future is dependent on your ex. Okay? It was really hard to only pick 3, by the way, and I secretly pulled in 4. I don't know if you noticed me do that, but I have 3, but I have the one overarching one that's like really for me in my bones. But this one's so important too. I just never want you to feel like your life is dependent on your ex. Everything that you've wanted does not require the ex who left. The life you wanted with that person, or maybe it's even bigger and better, it does not require the ex that left you. That life is and always will be available to you regardless of what the fuck he's doing. You deserve to know that in your bones and go out and fucking get it. So important. Like that alone is one of the things that really just amplified my healing of no matter what result I want to create in the world, if I want to make more money than my ex, if I want to live where I went and bought a house with him, if I want to, have a boat like we did, I get to have all of those things and none of them are dependent upon him being in my life to create that world. Having a family, having a baby, those things even are not a requirement of him. He does not have to be in my life for me to create a family or a child. I can do that, and that is not dependent on him, even when it feels like it really is. So those are the 3 reasons it's really important to prioritize getting over your ex. Waking up to a nightmare, wishing your real life was the dream, no. Emotionally dependent on one human in the world, no. Feeling like your future is dependent on your ex being in your life, no. We have got to prioritize getting over your ex, your breakup and your divorce, just like you would prioritize a death. Put your energy, your effort, your time, and your money there. The more you put in, the more you get out, right? Think about if you're trying to work on your health. You put money into your gym membership. You put time into going to the gym. You put time into meal prepping. If you take one of those out, you're going to get less, right? But we put as much energy, effort, time, and money into your breakup and your divorce and getting over that so that you can come out the other side a different version, so that you aren't living a nightmare of a life. It is so, so important, okay? And the interesting part about all of this is that when I created those lists of here's an experience of death and how we look at it from society and the experience of it, from emotionally to tangibly, and here's what it's like to go through a breakup or a divorce, I want you to know that the Get Over Your Ex program takes that into account. You do have a ceremony for your ex and for the potential that you saw. You have a community of people who are supporting you. It is absolutely important. And when you join the Get Over Your Ex program, there's no way you won't prioritize your breakup and getting over your ex. You've got individualized support to help you. You've got the Braveheart community to hold you, to celebrate you. They really get it, to be there with you. And if you are someone who is listening and you feel like the person that I described above, you need to do whatever you need to do to make the Get Over Your Ex program happen for you. That is where I can help you. That is where you will change your life. And I do not want anyone feeling that way. I do not want you moving through your life in that way. And if you are someone who's listening who's already done the Get Over Your Ex program, it is your duty as a Braveheart alumni to share this with the world, to show up and help other people prioritize their breakup and their divorce healing in whatever way that works for you. Right? You have the ability to share this information and this knowledge. And what would it be like to show up for someone in that way, right when they need it, And that's why I do what I do. That's why I share what I share. And I hope all of you see that. And I hope we can now start to change this at a bigger level, like a worldwide level. Like we already have Bravehearts all over the world, which is just so fun. And I would just love to change the way that we handle heartbreak at in a much bigger way. And I think it's all going to start with prioritizing it, just like we've talked about in this entire episode. All right, my Bravehearts, I love you so much. The Get Over Your Ex program is open for enrollment through the end of this week. April 14th will be the last day to sign up. I hope I see you inside. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you next time. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.